You
Let's go.
anything from your end before I begin?
No, be you.
Okay,
There's
done.
nothing really formal. It's a small group anyway.
Hmm?
So, hi everybody. Welcome to another community session on a topic which I absolutely love, which is around money mindset. And who better to do it for us than Krusha? Krusha's not only a coach, but she's also very passionate about a similar cause that we are, which is working with women, making sure that more and more women are part of the working strata. More and more women are empowered, and that's why I know that she will always come and do something special for Manisa. Every time we'll give her a request, she does that. Apart from that, she also has her full-time job. She's also an influencer on LinkedIn. She's basically someone who she also wrote a book very recently. She does coaching for executives on their mindset and their future goals. So as usual, Krusha, I'm so happy to have you here because I'm looking forward to something totally delightful and different. This time, where we're talking about self-sabotaging money
Yes.
beliefs. The idea actually came to us because a lot of times when we are doing money learning sessions, we end up realizing that a lot of women, even though they are getting the concept and they
Hmm.
want to make those differences or have those behavioral changes,
Yeah.
there are multiple other money, these barriers which keep coming back. And I think this is a work in progress for us as we
Hmm.
also evolve as a brand. So
Hmm.
thank you so much for helping us, supporting us through this
My
journey.
pleasure. It's always fun to be here. So I'm good. I mean, it's a nice intimate group. So guys, I'm going to keep it fairly casual. Please don't hesitate to interrupt. I might not be able to see it because I'll be sharing my screen. So firstly, Nia, you'll have to give me
Yeah,
permission to
I've
share.
done it. I've done it.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to share my screen. If one of y'all can just let me know if you can see it.
Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect. So it's not a very long PPT. I just like having slides because it's easier when you have a visual, so you guys can follow. Nia, if there's anything in the chat while I'm speaking, just let me know. You can interrupt me, and we can tackle it that time. Yeah.
Yes, perfect.
Uh, Great. So Neha's already done an introduction for me. I keep it just fairly quick. So yeah, I am an ICF certified life and career coach, which is the reason I'm here. I work a lot with mindset. I'm primarily a coach for women now, which is also a transition that I made. It's something, as Neha said, I'm super passionate about. So I love working with women on their professional and personal goals to, make sure that they achieve that and more. I won't go through the rest of it. You can check my LinkedIn profile, and I think you should be able to see all of these things. But yeah, maybe the one thing I'll say is I'm not a financial expert, which is why here I am able to talk more on the mindset, and you'll discover that as we go. And of course, you have financial experts here who would be able to help with the other side of things. Um, Okay, so let's start with what is a money mindset. Okay, a money mindset is basically the attitude you have towards money, towards your finances, and you can see this in different elements. And I can talk about when we talk about self-sabotaging beliefs, you'll see where that comes in. It's just overall, how do you think about money? How do you see when you see someone who's rich, when you see someone who has money, when you see someone who doesn't? What do you think? When you're spending money, what do you think? When you're earning money, what's the thought? What's the feeling? All of this is your money mindset, right? It's just the feeling you have towards anything around money. When people are having a discussion, when you are falling short of money, when you want to make a big purchase, anything, observe your thoughts and your feelings. That is your overarching attitude towards money, which is your money mindset. Okay, and today we'll find out more about how those beliefs possibly impact your reality with money. Uh, Before I go to specifically, I'd say self-sabotaging beliefs around money, I want to just talk about the correlation between beliefs and behavior. Okay, if there's anything you take from today, I would say it's this. It's something that I will hopefully talk about just for a minute, but you'd be able to start getting a picture of how this already happens in your life. Anything you do, absolutely anything that is happening in your life is a causative effect of your beliefs. Okay, and I'll give you a few non-money examples for us to begin. Okay, so let's say we were just talking about feeding, right? Now we were talking about parenting, we were talking about feeding. Now, I am working full time, as Neha said, but I am choosing to continue breastfeeding. And of course, that takes effort in terms of math to make sure that you're available at that time, or if you pump at a certain time, not going into details, or even if I have a work event, I'll go back and forth to, make sure I still come back and feed. There's no right or wrong in this. It's just because I have a belief that breast milk is best for my baby in the first year, right? This is not a fact. I mean, it may or may not be. I don't know. I'm not but it's my belief, right? And where did that belief come from? It's because of the people I'm surrounded by. It's because of the content I have consumed around it. That's what built my belief. And so that is impacting my behavior, that I am going through this trouble, extra trouble, to make sure it happens because I believe that. Right? So that's one example. If we talk about if you believe that showing up well groomed will impact how you perform, you will more likely to actually show up well groomed, right? To groom yourself. Whereas if you believe it doesn't matter, you're probably not going to put effort into doing that. So this is what it means, that anything you believe is what impacts how you behave. If you believe that, in your if after you have a kid, you cannot work, not should not be, that you cannot work or your child will not get enough attention, just an example, you're more likely to not, because you believe that, right? So we need to look at our beliefs when we want to change our behavior, because if we just try to change our behavior, that from tomorrow I'm going to go to the gym, from tomorrow I'm going to invest wisely, from tomorrow I'm going to have a healthy outlook towards love and find the person, it won't just happen with behavior. We need to look at beliefs first, because whatever we believe is what we are behaving with. Okay, does that make sense so far? Anything, any comments, any questions around belief? Thanks, Janvi. Okay, perfect. So I'll take Janvi's yes as a collective yes. Right, so now we're going to take this concept that your beliefs impact your behavior, and we're going to zero in on money. Okay, and how this concept affects money.
Perfect.
So over here, we're going to go through, this is not an exhaustive list. Okay, guys, when you talk to anyone, when you sit down and go through your belief system, there could be very custom beliefs that are very specific to your circumstances, your upbringing, which you might not find on this list. But this is just going through a couple of them so you can start understanding what does a belief look like, a money belief. Okay, so for example, the first one, money is the root of all evil. Right, this is something many people have heard. What is the belief here? The belief is, you might feel it, that once you make too much money, you're not moral anymore. The only way to make too much money is by being immoral to a certain extent, whatever that belief is. So if that is your belief, you will subconsciously make sure not to earn beyond a certain limit. You will feel you're almost pushing it away at some level, because you feel, if I make more than that, then it's greed, it's not need. And if it's greed, I will not be the moral person I am anymore. I will not value the right things in life anymore, whatever your belief is there, right? So this is one of those beliefs that's very common that people have. Okay, another one is out of sight, out of mind. Okay, doesn't only work for money, but works for money also in a lot, where you feel like, if I just don't look at it, it's not a problem anymore. So it's very common. It sounds like silly, and who would do that, but it's super common, where you say, I just don't want to look at it right now, as long as there is enough that when I'm tapping the card, I can pay for something, and my bills are paid. I don't want to look at it. It's out of sight, out of mind, and you believe it'll take care of itself. It won't be a problem.
Yeah, generally, I think that is such a common, I think, belief, because a lot of, at least personally, even for me, when I'm really stressed about it, I go into the out of sight, out of mind mode, even though I'm so aware that I am in that mode. But it does happen if there is stress or unpleasantness associated in that time with that.
Correct. And it's a good example of, we have a fight or flight mode that's really often, right? And this is a flight mode where we just decide to run away from it. So again, it's not only for money, but it is a common one, as you said, that does happen around money.
Yeah.
And
How does one kind of start deal? So I'm sure you will tell us how to
yes.
deal with it. Okay. Cool.
Yes, let's cover a few and then we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
definitely spend time discussing that.
Girls, tell
Yeah.
us in the chat box if there are some money beliefs that you also have
Yes.
or you feel as you're hearing that you're getting conscious of it.
Or
So,
even versions of these. If you have, like I said, money is the root of all evil is just the common phrase that is used. It might not appear for you in the same words. Like I said, it might appear for you as if I make enough money, I'm going to lose sight of valuing the things that are more important in life, or whatever that version is for you. Right? It might sound different.
absolutely. I recently did one session with batch of B school girls, and we did one round of these
Mm,
conversations. And a lot of them, have said this that money creates conflicts. मतलब घर में लड़ाइयाँ
mm,
होती हैं, हमने देखा है
exactly.
families में
That's a
लड़ाइयाँ
great
होती
version
हैं.
of that. Very common.
Yeah. And so many of them, they all were like, no, money se hota hai. And then
Mm,
one part of the conversation was, are you sure that it's the money or it's the communication or years of lack of
mm,
communication around it? And then they were like, yeah.
exactly.
Even somebody said, I think हमें friends को पैसे नहीं देने चाहिए क्योंकि मेरी
Mm,
मम्मी ने कहा कि friends को lend नहीं करो फिर रिश्ते खराब हो जाते हैं. So
correct.
this is also, I think, coming from that, it's the root of
Yeah,
evil
this
somewhere.
is all branches of that same one. And Vanshika has put an interesting one there, which is also like Samomaya is such a common one that we say
Ah.
that, but we laugh about it. But it's so true that subconsciously that means you're saying that, oh, I should stay away from what is materialistic. Right? In what is Samomaya, that this is materialistic. Money is prime materialistic. So you're subconsciously pushing it away. You can't expect to want something while simultaneously saying I don't want it or I should not have it, right? And that's what we do with this belief. Right? Uh,
It's a very
Ashima,
interesting
no
one.
worries. You can probably catch it later. Thanks for being here. Dakshina, my mom's belief growing money plants is good financially, but I don't believe that. This is interesting. So I would say this one, no, is somewhere between myth and belief, which is an interesting concept because even if something is a myth, now, for example, I'll give you a health example, not a money example, but similar to what Dakshina is talking about. I have this, and I know I have this. If you tell me something is all organic, natural, Ayurvedic, I believe it'll work. Compared to if you give me an allopathy medicine, uh, I don't have a good belief system with it. I believe that it's not really, and this is not right or wrong, right? A lot of times it's the other way around, but I know that's my personal belief. So sometimes if I have just a home remedy, I'm telling my mind that this is working. So as long as it's something that is not too big, I'll feel better in the in 2 hours. I'll like have it. I'll go to sleep. I'll get up, and I told myself that when I have this and sleep and I'll get up, I'm going to be better. Right. So if we similarly talk about what Dakshina is saying that there's a money plant and growing it is helping me financially, this is very similar to the law of the universe. If you believe that that is going to help, so as soon as you've planted that money plant, you probably will start making behavior changes around it because now you believe that now it's the onset of good money habits to happen. So you will start probably changing your behavior towards it also. So while it may be a myth or not, this is not probably the place we decide whether it is true or not, but it can possibly be a positive or a negative belief, right? You both can see, let's say you and your mom both look at that money plan and your behavior will be different from it because now she believes it's the start of good luck and she'll probably start acting that way and you believe it has no impact and your behavior is not going to change. So it's
Actually,
interesting where
it's a
these
very
myths come
interesting
from.
one, Dakshina. I think it's also something like now at this age, I've also started reading a little bit more about manifestation now at this
Yeah,
age. And when I was reading it, it's almost like she is physically trying to manifest this thing
exactly.
because every time she's seeing it, it is giving her a positive feeling.
Mm.
So in that sense, if you were to ask me, I don't think it's a right or wrong thing, but it's just
It's
something
just a belief, exactly, which is
it's
impacting her
working for her. And
behavior.
you probably want to build your own way of thinking
Mm.
about it, as authors say, like what will work for you, which there are bad days and good days with money, right? We all have those. But
Mm.
at the end of the day, when you see something and you feel that nahi sab acha hoga,
Mm,
Good things will happen because I have been doing this.
mm.
Plus, I also have this plant, right,
Yeah.
which is now growing and blossoming.
Yeah,
I think
it
it's
is a
just like
it is
that.
a physical manifestation, and it can be. It depends on, and that's I think about all these beliefs. When I've written your money is the root of all evil, it's easy to feel that, and I'm going to come to that. That's a very common one. It's easy to believe that this is a bad belief to have, but actually, not necessarily. None of them are bad or good. For example, knowing money is the root of all evil. If I believe that, it might be what stops me from making actually a wrong decision, right? Like a super risky decision, or getting into an iffy business deal or something of that sort, right? You won't do it because you feel this is the root of all evil. So it could serve you well also. So all beliefs are not bad or good. It's about you figuring out, are they serving you well? That's always the question. I have this money belief. Is it serving me well? Or am I desiring a different outcome? Then I need to look at changing my money belief, and which one, right? I'm going to go through the one said here also. Nikita, this is a very common one also. The more you chase money, the more it eludes you, right? Again, sounds like this could be good or bad. You have to ask ourselves, is it serving you well? Does it make you feel when you are looking and trying to see, okay, I have to get more clients this month and this is what I'm going to do to get it? Then does that make you feel you're chasing money and then you don't do it and then doesn't come, and you know what I mean? Or it could be it's actually serving you well. Okay, I've stopped paying attention to that. So I've taken the pressure off and I've been focusing on just the input and it's working for me. So that same belief can be good or bad, depending on how it's working for you.
Yeah, that will
Yeah.
be interesting to see, Nikita, how you look at it. The more you
Yeah.
chase money, the more
Like,
it.
is it serving you well or no? After this belief
पैसे
has
के
been
पीछे मत
adopted.
भागो. पैसा तुम्हारे पीछे भागे.
Yeah. Uh, there is Vanshika. This is such a common one. Paise पेड़ पे नहीं उगते, money doesn't grow on trees. I think we've all heard it, especially in India. I think we've all heard it growing up because, of course, India was also at a different time. It's very important to understand that also. That if we're just talking in Indian context, if you see the way our parents grew up, their belief system maybe worked for them at that time because it
Yeah.
was also a different time. Today there is, touchwood, more of an abundance around, even if there's more inflation and even if we all have our issues with money, and you might want more, but overall India has more money today than we had before, right? Which means overall, the way families are living, the way everyone has a phone, and the way the desires are different, it calls for different beliefs. It doesn't mean the beliefs they had were wrong that you're trying to correct. It just means the beliefs they had might have worked that time and they don't work right now because that now a scarcity belief will not work. Um, Okay, let's go through a few more and you can keep telling me on the chat. We might have. Investing is too risky. You would have probably seen this, Neha. I think this one is also very common. I know I had it initially because I grew up with, again, the mindset where I learned a lot about money from my grandfather. And of course, in his time, it was very clear it's FDs or a house. You don't put your money anywhere else because it's unsafe and it'll go. Right? You're on mute, Anya.
It still is, by the way.
Yeah,
A lot of people,
it's
a
so
lot of
deeply
women,
ingrained, no?
especially. Yeah, yeah. No, no, buying a house is a thing which I'm telling you now, because it's fresh. I just did this batch of
Yeah,
110 young girls, 23-year-olds. 100% of them said, we will buy real estate, we will buy a house. Because that
which
is
is crazy, right? In the current market where rent
yeah,
is.
but that's what it is. And when I showed them the returns, they were like, I think what happens is
Hmm?
our mind doesn't want to think practically about it because it's so many years
Yeah.
of like one of them
Correct, but
actually
that's what it is also, Niana. It's also so many years. We have to take into account that you've heard this that has cemented your belief for what, 20 years of their life,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So they have to hear the opposite enough times also for it to finally sink in. It won't be like one workshop will not change it, right?
100%, yeah,
After that, they have to
100%.
invest in doing that more and then have more sessions or read more articles on that subject to eventually have that mindset change. Like I said, even for me in the beginning, I remember this, and I remember my husband and I was sitting with a financial consultant early years, during the early years of our marriage, and that time I think this belief was still strong for me, and I had a certain amount that my grandparents had given me, like after marriage, saying this is, from us. That amount, for some reason, because for me, in my head, it was my safety net. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
While I was looking at how we invest everything, my financial investor is like, can we not switch this to a place where it'll give you higher return? It was an FD. No, because like this will just stay here for a very long time. It was just, for me, I was like taking that away and putting it in something that might not be risky, because I was not going from, they were not advising me to go from an FD to something that's super risky. But because I believed investing outside of this is risky, I'll put little, but I'm not putting my chunk of money there, because, that was the belief. So I think a lot of people have it, as you said, for house, for
And
FDs.
it's a journey to change it, because it doesn't take one person, it won't take one class, like you rightly said. It's an influence of multiple people around you,
Yeah.
right? So in your case, for example, even if they would have suggested the safest of funds, it's almost like nahi, ye unki nishani
It's
hai.
still a fund, yeah. And it's
I
still
will
a
not touch
fund.
this.
I don't
It's
know,
so
like,
sacred. No, it's still a
exactly.
fund. Don't say these things.
And you're right, they showed me also that an FD was at an even worse rate, right? That time. Now it's slightly better, still
Now
not
it's
the same.
better, yeah.
But that time that was even worse. And I was seeing that rate. It was very clear. And I'm educated enough. I'm doing multiple, I'm earning my own money. I would see that figure and I would still deny it, because my belief was so strong that I could not change it overnight till it finally changed over the years.
Yeah,
With
absolutely.
that.
And the story, interestingly, at this one of the young girls, she told me, and we were discussing real estate, and I was trying to explain to them how real estate and equity have performed very similar to each other if you stretch that to 10 years or 15 years. And then this girl, she tells me, she says, my dad is such a big believer of property, and we bought so much of land and this thing. He's faced losses. What you're saying is right. Like I said, it's not that people feel that real estate doesn't go down. You face losses, you have multiple inconveniences with paperwork, etc.
Yeah.
He says he's faced losses, but somehow it has never deterred him. And he says, "Ye to hota hai, that's fine." Or khareedenge. I said, now the same thing happens in the markets. You will stop investing.
Yeah,
You will
exactly.
stop investing. It's like, no, this is risky. So actually, it's about
mindset. And this
mindset.
house one is very common. I know in our houses we were having a discussion about, okay, if we sell, then it makes more sense to go on rent. Just it logically makes more sense to invest that money in a better way, make those returns and go on rent, because what you invest will actually pay for your rent and you will still have surplus left to invest, right? Logically. And by that time, our belief systems had changed. So we were on, I mean, my husband, I think, was already had this. I caught up. But my parents, my in-laws are still catching, because for them, like, it's insane to leave your house and go on rent and you don't have a house anymore. Like, what are you doing? So that whole belief system, right? And that impacts behavior.
Ladies, have you not faced anything mindset barriers? Please put it in and we can.
What is the investing belief? Yeah, I'd be interested to see what is the investing belief here. Do you think it's risky? Do you believe it's risky? Not think. Two different things. Anyway, till that comes in, I'll move to the next one. Yeah. I'm not good with money. Very common one. Okay. If you believe money is a skill that can be learned, then that statement doesn't hold true anymore, right? That means you can go to an expert and you can learn and you can get better at it, and so you will. But if you believe it's something you're born with for some reason, like some other skills, then people have that. I'm just not good with money. It's the same thing. So many people will say, I'm just not good with time. It makes no sense to me. You are late everywhere. So you say, I'm not good with time, where all you need to do is, like, if you think logically, is there any good reason for someone to always not be on time? Right? It's not circumstantial anymore. It's you made it part of your identity, and you believe you are not good with time. It's the same with money. So you believe that you're not good with money. So you're not behaving in the way that would be considered good money behavior. I think we have a few. Wish we had a more extensive rent versus owning house model. Yeah, I think Neha, this is a good recommendation for you to have a workshop on this. Definitely a very common one.
I'm telling you, even if I show you guys the numbers, nobody's going to believe me. So yeah, I think we should.
But I think it's an interesting discussion. I agree. Probably
actually, it's a
should
mix
be
of
one.
numbers and what you want, and
yeah,
what
It's a mix
matters
of that
most.
belief system and then actually seeing the numbers.
It's
Like
a mix.
Prakti is written, your worst investment belief, what if I lose my money? Yeah, very common belief. Now you feel like what, like that money is gone, then what? Like I was saying, we were discussing this house thing. So I told my mom that if you did this, and this is a real discussion we were having quite recently, if you did this, your money is still there. Just that this way you were living in the house, so that's where you could see your money. But you can log in, and you'll still be able to see. I told her, every time you feel like you don't have this money anymore, you don't have a house anymore, you log in and you see your investments. So you know that that number is still there. It still exists. It's just in a different format. It's just digital. It's not like physical. But for her, it's like money is lost. Money is gone. You don't have that money anymore, and you'll invest here. And it used to come. I think again, it came from the past. If you look at your grandparents or anyone, if you talk to them about the equity market, what will they
Yeah.
tell you about? They'll tell you about that one case, the scam case. They'll tell you about another case. For them, that is the equity market. That it goes up and then it falls up. We are not doing day trading. You explain that I'm not sitting and doing buy in the morning, sell in 2 hours. That's not what I'm trying to do with equity, right? I'm making safe equity investments that have a good probability of growing. But that differentiation is not there. So people will not go ahead and make that second step after you show them the figures. Now, if you show 10 people those figures, let's say we had this workshop on house versus thing, and you did this, you'll probably, if everyone came with that belief, you'll have maybe two people who might have, this might not be their first trigger. Maybe
Yeah.
they've had multiple of these triggers. They've had the conversations I'm talking about. They've read something somewhere, and then there will be some place where that trigger is finally there, where they'll then try to find out more till
Yeah.
eventually that's changed, right? That happened with me as well. Where
Yeah.
I heard this from my financial consultant, I heard it from my husband, I heard it from like a few people, I read it somewhere, and then something I don't remember clicked, and I started proactively finding more information on why FDs don't make sense at that
Yeah.
time, right?
Makes sense.
And then that behavior changed.
Yeah, yeah. I
True.
think for us also as advisors, sometimes it can
Hmm?
be like on the other side, it's also very demotivating sometimes because you're giving the numbers, you're giving the logic, and you're like,
Yeah.
why is this person not listening
Because they
to
are just
me?
not there. Your trigger,
Why is this person
they are
not
not at the
listening?
same number of triggers
Yeah.
as
So
you,
it's taken
basically.
us also a lot of time to understand that it's so
Exactly.
many hours of hard. And also, frankly, you're right, right? Something I have trained my mind, I've read about it, I've learned from the age of 18, 18 onwards.
So imagine.
40 now. So, it's so inset in my mind
Hmm?
that there is no other way. How is this
Exactly.
person not able to understand that?
Because they have heard the opposite for that long.
I have trained my mind so differently
Yeah.
that after a point you see, if like you're a coach in this space, you would have so much learning in this space
Hmm?
that when somebody is talking about mindset and they're like maybe someone like me who's like bilkul
Hmm?
peasy, you're like, how is this person not able to understand
Yeah,
the importance
because
of
you have to meet them exactly. So you meet them where they are. And I think Prakti, exactly what we were saying, that grandparents believe like they associate equity and share market with like Harshad Mehta or like suicide. So their mind, and it's true, this is not even a joke. Their mind actually goes, any word you mention, okay, it has a dictionary meaning, but we all have our own definition of it. So if I say love right now, I just say love, just like with money. If I just say love, all of us will have a thought as soon as I say love. You'll imagine a person, you'll feel a feeling, or you'll have a thought, a certain word will come, and that's different for all of us. It's very different from the actual dictionary meaning of it. That's our definition of that word. And you have it for everything. So if you say the market right now, Neha will think of all her information that she has around the market, or maybe someone thinks of an exact stock, someone thinks of a bad experience, someone thinks of a good experience, someone thinks of a story they heard somewhere. And that's why your grandparents actually make that association, that you say market, and a lot of them, their association goes to the scam or to hearing bad stories of people who've invested because they didn't do it the way investing is happening now. Their belief is actually coming from a place, and I'll talk about a controversial topic. Let's talk about religion. uh it's the same thing, right? Sometimes, or let's talk about homosexuality. I'll give you a real life example. For my mother, so I had a lot of friends who were gay when I was living abroad. The first time she came to meet me when I was abroad, when I was studying, and she met one of them. uh, while she was, of course, because she's a warm person, she was perfectly warm. But when we went back, her first thought was, and I'll say this in the exact words she said, he's so good looking. Why is he choosing to, be with her? Man, this was an actual, and she genuinely felt that, right?
Yeah,
She
but
was
that's
just
how
like,
it is.
what a waste of good looks. Like, but she thought it's a choice. She's like, why is she really believed it's a choice? Because, and I don't blame her at that point, because she grew up with absolutely no exposure to being around anyone who was openly gay. Who, my friend came with his boyfriend, and it was the first my mother had seen of this. And then, of course, over the years, she was exposed to it a lot more, and today her belief system is probably a lot more different. So that's also important to know, and that's the best thing about what we are discussing here. Beliefs are not permanent.
Lovely. Yeah,
They
absolutely.
take time to change, but they are not permanent. If you want to change a belief, you can change a belief, because beliefs are, they are nothing tangible. There's no right or wrong. They don't exist in any way. They're just our perception, right? They are manifestation of things, so they can change at any time. I think we have a few. Yeah, I think before there's
But we need to
gold
take
will never
that.
lose value is an interesting one. I have to say, when my son was born recently, and still some people were giving those silver glasses of this thing, and I'm like,
Ah,
what do I do with this? I said, we no longer feed our kids in this. I have to feed him in that the new thing that we have to do with the. I'm not getting into what it is, but I'm not going to give him. He's not going to feed in this daily. It has no value for me to keep it, invest in. And now there's apparently an emotional quotient attached to it, and I don't know what to do with it. Right? So
sell it after a few years when you're not too
exactly,
emotional about it. It's very simple. Keep
I'm
it.
not emotional about it even right now. But
Yeah,
then
just sell
that's
it.
my belief,
It's
right?
silver is a great commodity. You make some decent money, convert it into something that is
Exactly.
tangible for your son, and just basically the thing is they connect. The way I think
Mm,
about gifting is that somebody who gives me something valuable, they connect worth to that thing. Their association is that अगर हम silver दे रहे हैं, हम कुछ चीज दे रहे हैं जो इस बच्चे के लिए worthy है.
correct, correct.
All you
And
need
they're
to do
not
as a
wrong.
parent
It's
is
coming
convert it
from
into
K.
something which you think is
हाँ,
worthy. That's
and
it.
it's coming from कि जब they used to do this, it was true. This commodity had more value. People used to actually use it to feed their kids, because the belief that time, even around that, there's belief everywhere. Belief around how you should feed your kids. Belief, parenting is a whole other sort of beliefs
अभी
that we
भी
can
है
open.
वैसे भी अभी भी बहुत ये
अभी
सब
भी है,
beliefs हैं.
exactly, but it's
हाँ
changing.
अभी
So
भी
there
है.
can be contradictory beliefs, no? When you even argue about something, about even a kid or anything, it's just two contradictory beliefs. It's just that you believe that this is the right way, and that person believes that this is the right way. Just beliefs that are being.
Actually, हाँ. And
That's all it is.
that's what it is.
What is
I agree with
Nikita
one thing
saying?
very nice actually Nikita is saying
Hmm?
also, and Krusha, one of the nice, like the last thing she's written, we need to take chances to know.
Mm.
Really rewarding. I think that is the key actually. You taste a little
Yeah,
and you see
correct.
substance, and then I think that also helps to start changing.
100%, because now you
Yeah.
have evidence, because your
Uh-huh.
brain works on, you had evidence of the previous, because your previous evidence was a story of something, or maybe it actually happened in your family or something. That was your evidence story, which gave your belief. Now you have to create new evidence. It's a great thing, because it's one of the things you do for a mindset change. You have to expose yourself to information that's different, but you also have to expose yourself to actions, and you have to create new evidence. It's one of the key things of changing mindset, which Nikita has actually mentioned here, that
That's what I think
create
it's a
new
very
evidence.
important thing. Yeah.
You're
And then
telling
you
your mind now.
reaffirm that belief because you see something positive coming out of it, and then you
Exactly.
again do more of that action.
Mm,
You know,
exactly.
very good
Exactly.
point.
Let's see what else. It's such a common one. Money cannot buy happiness. Right?
बस
Uh
सबको खुश होना है ना. So
so
yeah,
again comes down to, is it serving you well, right? Is it so? And people have versions of this also, huh? People will, and that'll be your reality. It's actually uncanny, but it's true. And I'll tell you why I had it. I didn't believe money cannot buy happiness. That was not my belief. But I did believe you don't need money beyond a certain point to be happy, right? It's like meet your needs. You need money for that, because otherwise it's a problem. You won't be happy. But then after that, money cannot buy happiness. Okay. And now my version, and again, there's no right or wrong. This is just, I tell you where my version of this belief is. My version of the current belief is that money, lack of money can cause unhappiness. I do believe that if there is not money, that can buy unhappiness. So I'm not saying you go out and you buy a toy and that is happiness, but I believe a lack of money can cause unhappiness. And I also believe money can buy happiness in certain ways, in the sense of it can help me afford travel. It can maybe get me to a point where I can work at my own time frame, then I can spend time with who I want. So if you're in my head, the belief is now that if I believe spending time with my child is happiness, or if I believe taking a vacation is happiness, but what allows me to do that? Money. So for me, the correlation is now that. But this is a very common one. And again, it's interesting for you all to maybe think about what is your version of this, because it's a very common one. Like, what do you truly believe? It's not a one line yes or no. It's what version of it do you believe? So you can probably put what version of it you believe. And yeah, what is your belief there?
I think I still struggle with this one sometimes. I do. I still struggle with it. I don't think that money can't buy you happiness, but I do believe in that thing sometimes where I'm like, itna ho jaye, that's enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there are days when I'm like, why am I myself limiting,
I've had this myself, and it's still an ongoing process for me as well. Like I said, all that I have seen that I've been doing is I've been able to raise the bar a little more each year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
it changes a little more each
Yeah.
year. It's not immediate again.
Yeah.
Svela, great question. How should we change all these beliefs? So I'll cover a couple of them very quickly now in just 5 minutes. But we've spoken about some things already. We've spoken about, for example, something Nikita mentioned right above, which is creating new evidence. So try alternate behavior. Okay, behavior and beliefs is the way. So anything we do in coaching is awareness and action. Okay, and I'm going to come to that. Anytime you want to make a change, you need to make a change on either segment, and the other gets affected. What I mean by that is either I work at changing my belief, and once I change my belief, my behavior will change, or I start with a behavior change. So I do something different, and slowly that will impact my belief, right? And then that will again impact my behavior. So it's very correlated. So what I meant by that is, and we'll talk about it, you can either do a couple of things on changing beliefs that we'll talk about, or you can do a couple of things on changing the behavior that you want to change and see how that starts impacting your belief by having new evidence. I'm not lucky with money is also very common. If you believe, and I love asking people this question, you know, when you see someone who has a lot of money, what do you think? Like, what is your true, honest thought? So a lot of people will think that, you know, they're
I'm
super
like,
lucky.
no, sometimes I don't know if it's luck, but I do have some people I see and I'm like, inke paas kaise hai ye? Like how has this person managed to do this? I do have this.
Which is a
So
question that's
coming from a
okay.
place of arrogance.
Correct.
I'm
But
not
it
sure
comes, and we all have these. So it's very important. It sounds like a silly question. That what do you think when someone else has money? And probably the immediate answer you think is you either think. So, but it's important. Do you think less of them? That happens sometimes with people. Some people feel like they have money, but they don't have class. They have money, but they're not happy. They have money, but they're without knowing. They'll think that. And what you're doing subconsciously is you're telling yourself that, you know, if I get more money, money to I'll get, but I won't be happy anymore on actual happiness. Or money to I'll
Money
get, but
can't buy happiness.
yeah, correct, exactly. Or I won't really have respect anymore, if you believe that, right? So it's very
Money का
important.
कोई value नहीं.
Exactly, you have
बिल्कुल
to
value नहीं
see
करते हैं.
what do you believe around these people, or do you believe that they didn't do anything to get rich? They just were born with it. If you feel that, and that it could be something that you see right somewhere, but if you feel that constantly about everyone you see who has money in your surrounding, it's very hard to then change your reality, because you can't change where you're born. So now you believe that nothing you do will change this much. That you're not going to get, because they were born with it.
Yeah.
And everyone, that means you believe, who has money was born with it, or they were born with that lucky lottery happened, or they were born in a certain place, or whatever it is. So then how will you change it? So then again, is that belief serving you well? And if not, then that needs to change, right? Okay, let's go to, I think I just have maybe one or two more examples. Arey, stop sharing. Here. Back. Okay. Yeah. Last one maybe, and then if you all have more common ones, you can put it in the chat, because as I said, there are many, many more. I think we discussed some also. But I don't deserve wealth is also a very common one. Okay, and this can manifest in a lot of ways. Think about, I don't know, the room here, if there are freelancers, if there are entrepreneurs, if there are employees, uh, when you ask for a salary, when you charge your course at a certain rate, whatever it is that you're doing, it all comes from here. You might feel that what you're providing doesn't deserve this value, and you can look around, and sometimes there'll be someone else who is selling something with even lesser value at a higher rate, and who there is there's no bar to truly decide what is the right amount, right? For something, it comes from a sense of belief, it comes from a sense of, what do I think I deserve, what do I think my cost deserves, what do I think my employment at this company deserves. So which is why we also, and this is something I work on a lot with a lot of women, because it's true, and this is true for me as well. It is true, we negotiate less, right? We ask for less, and when we ask for it also, we feel the need to do a lot more to again, no good or bad, okay? This is just, we have to investigate and see whether it's serving you well. But we do feel like, even for me, if I feel, if I ever have to, whenever I have to ask for a raise, I have to really make sure I'm contributing much more that year in some way, or I've taken up a new project, or and I know a lot of male counterparts who don't even give it a second thought. They feel they've been there for the year, they deserve to get 20% more, 10% more, right? And this does come from that belief. Yeah, Nikita, as a freelance, I've coached a lot of freelancers, and so I mentioned it's very true. Uh, when you are deciding, right, you have the freedom to decide what you're going to charge for what you're doing, but then a lot of beliefs around, and there could be the belief could also be, if I charge more than this, I'm not going to get anyone. uh, I'm not going to get enough
Yeah.
clients. Someone else will do it for cheaper. These are that's facts, but they're also coming out of beliefs. So, what do you believe in? What your worth is? What? And I face this in, as I said, I would not ask for a raise. I remember, forget asking for a raise. When I moved to India from Paris, I moved with setting up a company here, and I would go to you travel to different cities. So of course, I was put up in a hotel to stay in that city and have the meetings, etc. And it was it was personal for me to make sure the hotel room was not, super pricey. And I spoke to so many people after. Like, I would speak to friends also, my guy friends, who, if they'd been in the same situation, would not have given it a second thought. That feeling of deserving a hotel room that is worth that much before you've earned a deal, for me, that was a question in my first month. Like, okay, I've been put up in this hotel room, I'm not even like, this company is investing in me. And their thought, I remember having a conversation with a guy friend of mine, and he was just like, you know the company has money, they are investing in you, you are doing this for them, on behalf of them. Like, the thought process was so different in terms of that, and this happens a lot. Yeah, people are doing in so much less amounts, the fear of losing clients, it's true. It's true. There's a lot of work, and there's no one step solution to this, Nikita, but it's true to go into this. And I would say, when I sit down in a coaching session, I think about with the client on what are the true goals, right? Sometimes there's just fear and we've not investigated more. Is it coming out of fact or fear? Very important. I'm not saying all fears are irrational. So it's important to see how much of it is a fact. Does it align with your goals? So sometimes it's also about, are you going to work with all the clients available who are looking for this? No. So it comes down to, you need to find a certain number of people to fulfill your need, correct? So we have to look at very personal, what are your goals? How do we fulfill that? And does this actually matter then? On that someone else is charging lesser, because you can't work with all the clients in the world anyway. So we have to see how much works for you. I feel like women struggle with specific that even if we are independent, the men in our lives can and should and constantly should hold. Very. Thank you for bringing this, Amachi. I think it's super common, super common, uh, and I think it works both ways, because what has happened is, change has happened. It's fairly recent. We might feel like this has been happening for a while now, that women have been working more. But firstly, if we look at it, the percentage is not as big.
It's
If we
not as big.
actually, it's not as big, which means
It's not changing either.
it's not changing as much at all. So if we look at our sample size, it's a lot. I'll talk to you about my friend circle. Okay, if I just look at, I stay in Bombay and in South Bombay. Okay, so for those of you who know South Bombay, it is definitely known to be the more well-off area of Bombay. That's already you're in the prime city of the country, and then you're in the bubble of South Bombay. Now, surprisingly, and this is study, I actually read it, once the income of the household increases after a certain point, the income of the woman falls. And this is an actual study, a true
Yeah.
statistic, which means that because the need to work is not as much, uh, immediately it said that, the woman doesn't need to work that much, so she'd rather spend time with. So if I look at my friend circle as well, there are women who are working, who maybe will have their own venture, or most of them, or are working at a certain business or whatever, but it comes from it's a second priority, which means, that it's a joke, my money is my money, your money is my money. It's true. But I'll tell you the opposite side of that also. That also means that when the child is involved, maybe the fathers today are more present. Correct? I'd like to believe. The more I see it, I feel at least they're more present than they used to be in the past. Correct? However, in these situations, the belief also is the same. Just like financially, the belief is there for women. The belief is there on the other side that uh, the woman will take care of that, or will give up the meeting, or will give up the, you know what I mean, anything, because that's the belief. Because you're all about doing it, but the primary role is still that. So just like you believe subconsciously, most people do, that I might earn money and I'm contributing, but the
I'm not the
primary
primary.
role, yeah, is still of
I'm
my
not the
husband.
primary bread earner.
And that's the same as opposite happens, primary caregiver. That means I'll help with the child, but
Nikita,
I'm
you'll
not
be
the
surprised.
primary caregiver.
Yeah, Nikita, you'll be surprised to see how many women come to us and we're doing goal planning and they're like, हाँ, but बच्चों की goal हटा दो because that's not my thing, right? वो तो मेरा husband देखेगा ना. So
Mm,
it's a long journey before we get to
mm,
the place where we feel the need to be equal, and of course financial independence
mm.
is a big part of this
Yeah.
equation, right? Not just earning some money but
Mm,
also like demonstrating what all you can bring to the family and to yourself with that money,
mm,
right? I think that itself is a long journey of decades and decades. And the
mm,
study which Krusha has mentioned, the most interesting part of that study for me personally was, I've read this, and this is happening in the rural families as well. So the rural labor participation is dropping of women because as soon as the rural families are now also elevating
at
their
a decent
status,
stage of,
the
yeah, exactly.
first thing to happen is that a woman is now not. तुम्हें
Mm.
क्या काम करने की जरूरत है?
There's no need.
There's no need. So it's just there
Mm.
across stratas. That's
But
how.
I think what Nikita brought up, Tanya, is very interesting, because it comes down to beliefs again, that the women in these situations uh, will ask the question, is this belief, I mean, most people don't, but if they proactively go to a coaching session and sit down and say, is this belief serving me well, it is might not be no for everybody. Some people may truly feel that this situation works for them,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Now, how much is true, not true, we don't know. It's very custom to each person. But if that is the case, then there's a lot of, like I said, I really feel there's no, at this point, I'm asked a lot about, because I talk very openly about women and, of course, independence and things like that. I really always say that I don't know, and this, I think, with coaching, is my belief has become even stronger with this, that there's zero right or wrong. Okay, I can tell you what works for me. My belief is that, and I do believe that, because I'm an equal contributor, even financially at home, so whether it's my child's education, or whether it is if we have to renovate the house or anything we have to do, it's, or we buy a car, it's an equal contribution between my husband and I do believe that because of that, I feel, at least that's my belief, that there's a correlation of my husband is an equal parent as well, in the sense that my meetings will not take a back end over his ever. It's always discussed in terms of where it goes. My calls are as important as his. He'll work from home if I'm working from home as much as possible as well, so that he'll feel, you know what I mean. And I do feel there's a correlation. That's my belief. I feel there's a correlation between that, and I've seen it a lot. That what Nikita is talking about, that it could be the other way around. If you do believe that your partner is the primary financial giver, at some point you will also by default be the prime. Just that's the only way of working, right? It can't be both. So then you're the primary caregiver, or you're the primary person responsible for anything that happens in the house. So again, is that serving you well? Are you okay with that? Does that work for you? Great, the belief is serving you well. If it doesn't work for you, then that needs to change. Let's see. And just earning for the sake of step down. Yeah, it's very true, Anshika. And I think this gets a little more complex as well, because a lot of times women are earning less than men. And if there was the question of, whose salary, if one salary had to go, if someone had to stay home with the kids, then it's just like apparently logical sense that then the woman's salary goes. But the paradox of that is it goes at such a time of where your career is also growing, that then the chance of that going the other way around doesn't change. It's different discussion, but it's true.
Absolutely.
Very true. I think I missed another. Yeah, there was a belief Shilpa wrote about. The more you give, the more you receive. Very common one as well. And again, no right or wrong. Is it serving you well? Right? I think I have a part of this as belief as well, where I feel like if I donate, if I not just money but time, if I do certain sessions for free, or if I do certain things, whatever way that works out, I do believe it comes. And I know where I get the belief from. It's also where you get the belief from. I get it from my mom. So most of us get our beliefs from our parents, or from grandparents, or from a certain friend, or your school, or wherever you've spent a lot of time. And is it serving you well? So far I feel it's serving me well. At some point, if it goes, I read a story, and this was I think it was actually in started reading Autobiography of a Yogi, which is very opposite to what we are discussing. But there was a story of this wife who would she believed so much in this concept that she would literally give away 90% of the income earned. So even though they were earning more, the husband was like, at the end of the day, at the end of the month, I'm still, fighting to make ends meet. And their fight was in the belief that she believed, but, you should not, if you have anything extra more than what you need to give it away. That's the way to live. Whereas for him, it was like, you give, I don't mind, you give 10% of our income away, but you can't give 90% of our income away where, then we are. So it's very interesting. Yeah, people tend to go, it's a karma money belief. Exactly. And is it serving you well? Is it not serving you well? Which will be very specific to certain people. But it's an interesting common one as well. Okay, I know there are more, and I've not seen the time at all. So I'm going to just quickly talk about something we've already spoken about, and then we can continue discussion. Is where do you begin, right? I think Swata had a question on this. I'm not sure if there was someone else. As I said, it comes down to awareness and action. Okay, and this is something I do in every coaching session as well, no matter what I'm coaching in. There are actually 4 A's. These are the two big ones, but the 4 A's are: A for agreement, which is we agree on what is the goal we're working on in a session. 2 is awareness, so awareness around that goal. We don't immediately move to an action plan. And then 3 is the action plan itself, and the 4th A is accountability, to actually stay accountable to that plan. Right? So those are 4 A's of coaching, and here I'm talking about the big ones, which is awareness and action. Correct. So two simple ways that you start. On awareness side, as I said, if you sit down with a coach, we discuss this very broadly. It becomes very custom for you, where you sit down and understand what are your limiting beliefs, right? Are they serving you well? Which are not? What is the behavior you'd like to change? We see which belief is attached to that behavior. How do we change that into a more positive thing? And then come up with an action plan that you stay accountable to, right? Now, most cases, that action plan inevitably will include something like working with a financial consultant. But of course, it depends what exactly your action plan is. And I think a common action that you can start taking is also to work with a financial consultant on setting your financial goals, seeing where you're at firstly right now, and then where you want to go, and then, have the action plan in between those steps. Usually I say awareness before action, always, in the sense, and not that they can't, when I say before, it doesn't mean that this can't happen simultaneously, but what I mean is You need to have awareness around what your beliefs are, what needs to change, etc., to be able to make sense of your action around anything you do, right? But for some people, awareness before action doesn't work, and that's the disclaimer as well. For some people, action works, which helps then in awareness, where they take action on that, and then they say, okay, now I can see it. I am starting to believe something different, so now I can work on making that better. So really, you can go either way. The more common approach is awareness before action, so that it's just lesser work in the sense you've changed it and you've done it, whereas this is the other way around, right? Gathering more evidence to have it. But they're both probably the two pillars of making this change happen with your beliefs.
Absolutely. I agree.
And
And they have to kind of reinforce each other. I think
Mm.
there is no other way of making shifts. For everything, there has to be a little shift that you do basis
Exactly.
of self-awareness, and then
And I think they work
action.
together. It's also important that you said, because I don't think it's an end all. It's not like, chalo, I'll get awareness. I've got complete awareness now. I have no more work to do, and now I'll go do action and then done. It's an ongoing cycle. So what I mean by awareness before action in any coaching session is that you get awareness around where you're at, what are your limiting beliefs, what steps you need to start taking now, and then you move to an action plan. Once you start taking action, you'll probably discover new things that arise, and again you need to work on awareness, and again you're taking action. So it's a very ongoing cycle. It's not really ever fully complete, because you'll elevate, and then you'll have new, as we were talking. It's not, maybe you don't believe money can't buy happiness, you believe that it can, but you believe it with a ceiling. Then it's about changing that ceiling. Then once you change that ceiling, you reach the next stage, and then something else comes up. So it's an ongoing process.
Yes.
I am happy to chat more if you'll have more questions or comments. Just maybe the one thing I'm leaving out here, for whoever's still here, is just for the community here. If you're going to take coaching, then there's a 10% off for whoever is here. You can either take a screenshot of this when you're emailing me, so that you use the screenshot and I'll know, or you can use the code WOMANY and I would also know that it's come from you. So whichever works for you.
Thank you so much, Krusha. I'm sure you all will be able to connect with Krusha through her LinkedIn or directly email her.
Yes, wherever.
But more than anything, thanks, Krusha, for bringing to light these conversations. They are so important before we do any other work in terms of calculations, making anybody wealthy. I think we need to realign all these money beliefs.
Yeah.
Unless that is done, no good work will truly happen with the real wealth, right? Change that.
So I'm sure everyone's in good hands with with you all on making those changes. Hopefully, less people are buying houses, but we'll know.
We facilitate that. Like, we're like, okay, if you want to buy a house, let's get that down payment.
Of course.
Whatever works for you, right?
Whatever works for you. As long as you're aware with what you're doing.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes, exactly. And why you want what you want.
Correct.
Is the core question. So thank you so much for sharing with us your time.
My pleasure. This was a fun Saturday morning. Always fun. I would have loved to see you guys, but next time.
The online world is
always
to have black boxes. They're all now accustomed to it. But that's fine. Maybe
but you guys are super active on the chat, so thanks, because it really was more fun with everyone contributing. I think it would have been a shorter discussion, but I didn't realize when an hour passed because everyone was chatting. So this was fun. Thank you for being here.
Thank you everyone. Thank you, Krusha. Thank you everyone. I hope you took away a little bit awareness about how to reset your money beliefs, and we'll see you soon with another session. Do share the feedback with us through the community, and we'll keep doing more of such engagements. Thank you so much, everybody.
Bye, guys. Have a good weekend and happy Diwali in advance.
Happy Diwali to you as well as to your family and to everybody. Thank you.
Enjoy. Bye.
Bye.